What is happening, good people? We're here for Macro Dirtcast number 11 with my man JD's Nuts and special guest Rudy Havenstein. What's happening, gang?
What's
Great.
happening, master debater?
Master debater. We're
Quite
going
an
to have
honor
some
to be here.
debating. Yeah, it's an honor to have Rudy on, man. One of my heroes of the internet. He's not a momentum investor. He's a long only, no margin trader. Rudy, it's great to have you on with us today.
Yeah, great. I heard you guys on one of your podcasts, and I seem like I'm more like Jared's trading style than your trading style, but whatever works for you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, you know, all trading styles are good here, and sometimes a combination of two is great for people to listen to.
By the way, I just want to say something about that. Like, if you're listening to me and Tony's got his methodology, and I have my methodology, I'm not saying that my way is the right way and no other way works. You know what I mean? Like, there's a million ways to make money in the market. And like, I don't have a monopoly on good ideas. I do what I do. It works for me. It may not work for you. Something else might work for you. Like, I'm not saying that I have the solution.
That's exactly the right posture because trading is like art, and everything is a brushstroke, right? And so you can have your own brushstrokes, your own style, choose your own color palette, and do things your way. And I have a feeling that that's why people with creative brains can succeed in the markets, right along people with extremely high IQs and 4.0 GPAs. So I think that's one of the greatest things about markets is how it democratizes success, quite honestly. So I want to go into what's going on right now on the tape, JD and Rudy. We just had, we're 3 sessions into September. We've already got an outside week to the downside trying to play out. We've got a dunk below moving averages. We've got measurable bullish sentiment. CNN Fear and Greed is at 65. The AAII Bloomberg Bull Index is at 51, which is elevated if you follow that. And Braden, throw this graphic up there. We have got a bull with laser eyes marching at us from the Wall Street Journal, just to put the cherry on top of the sentiment cake. Looks like we might be in for a pullback. Today is a retracement rally. How are you seeing the tape, JD?
Man, I'm focused on commodities. I think yesterday was the puke shot in commodities. So, first of all, OPEC pissed all over the market, right? Said they were going to increase production. Goldman comes out with their bearish copper note, right? And copper is down like 3%. Commodities bloodbath across the board. The Bloomberg Commodity Index yesterday put in a 13 buy on DeMark. That was the capitulation that I was looking for, and it's up today. So I think it's game on for commodities, and also that was the day that stocks peaked and did a reversal and went lower. So I think it's game on.
Yeah, I agree. We've got to talk about, NVIDIA is the stomping, disco ball that took up all the oxygen in the room. We're now seeing it finally unwind a little bit. We saw, Braden, why don't you throw the NVIDIA chart up there while we can dissect it? We saw that bull trap consolidation above the moving averages for 2 weeks. And then we finally saw the breakdown. And yesterday, visibly, if you want to know where all the money is going, it was all coming out of every sector of tech. It was coming out of cyclicals. It was coming out of miners. It was coming out of aerospace and defense. Where was it going? Into consumer staples.
If you look at the XLP chart, it is a big head and shoulders bottom in XLP. And it's being led by Philip Morris, which is going vertical. It's gone from 90 to 126 in 2 months. They reported earnings a couple days ago, up on earnings.
Look at all of them. Look at Clorox. Look at Colgate.
I'm going to take my Zin and put it over the camera here.
That's drama. That's the drama and conviction that we're looking for here on this podcast. If you don't like it, go listen to Joe Rogan or something like that. Rudy, what do you think of NVIDIA?
It's a kind of stock I don't usually own because I just sit back and watch. It looks like it could correct a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in it, and I have no opinion other than just watching it.
How about the broader stock market? You bullish or bearish right now, or kind of just sticking with value investments?
It's kind of interesting. I wonder if there's a divergence between, like I've been noticing during the sell-off the last few days, like Berkshire Hathaway's been up, and I noticed The Economist just had an article out to like yesterday that was one of those has Warren Buffett lost his touch articles, which I mean, The Economist is terrible, but the if you look at a chart of Berkshire, you're like, what are they talking about? And these articles come out every 10 years or so, has Buffett lost his touch? So maybe there's a bifurcation between the tech stuff. Maybe it'll be like 22. That's one thing I was thinking today, where you have, the tech stocks get hammered, but some other stocks do pretty good. I was looking at XLE, one your guys' favorite, and I like that. And it's up, I think, what is it? It's up significantly for the year, despite yesterday's, I think,
XLE
hammer.
year to date, I have it actually up. No, actually, it's pretty flat on the year, Rudy.
Is it?
XLE,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I'm looking at the wrong time frame
no,
then.
that's okay. XLE is up 70 basis points.
Wait a minute. What was I looking at?
Let me just double check. Sorry,
By
up
the
6%
way,
on the year. Sorry, my numbers were flashing. It's up 6% on the year, not doing too bad.
Okay. Not too bad, considering everybody seems to not like it, except people I follow and you guys. So
Yeah. Well, JD wrote a great piece on it yesterday that I shared with my audience.
I read that.
It was about the coming bull market in energy. I love that JD took a sort of turn away from his usual sentiment reads, and he threw in, some fundamental visuals with inventories of across products, going towards the bottom of historical ranges. Also that story from Exxon and OPEC potentially, putting us on guard for a commodity shortage. And if anything, he's got the sentiment dead right. If you picked up the phone and tried to raise money for an energy fund today, you would get hung up on promptly, right? So I mean, the oil market is being thrown out with the baby with the bathwater. We've got a BCOM 13 with a hideous investment bank call at the bottom. So this is lining up to be a BCOM buy and a tech sell. And
by the way, Goldman was also bullish on gold. They put out a bullish gold note.
Did they?
Yeah,
they also put out
all the Muppets into it.
Yeah. Is that good? Yeah. No, I view that as bearish for gold.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's amazing that you listen to these calls from Goldman and everybody wants to fade them or call them at an extreme. I just read a report this morning where they think that Kamala Harris is the better president for the economy. So someone who's running on a Soviet-style communist platform is actually going to be
literally
better for the US
her Justice Department went after the biggest tech stock in the world, knocked it down 15% for antitrust violations. Like, if you're a Democrat and you just lost 30 grand in your 401k, like, who do you have to blame for it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yourself for voting him in. That's kind of how I look at it. Rudy, you have a view on that, on whether Kamala will be good for the markets, bad for the markets, anything like that, the economy? How wonderful she is?
No. I don't have a horse in this race. I really don't. I think there's problems both ways. I mean, Trump, obviously Kamala, I think she has some horrible policies like the ones you're pointing out, but Trump wanted negative rates. Trump wanted more QE. And, I've been a big opponent of that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to get excited about anything. I mean, gun to head, I don't know. Where I live, it's not going to matter anyway, who I vote for nationally. But yeah,
Rudy lives in a uniparty state. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in a deep blue state. So very blue. The bluest.
I understand the feeling living here in New York my whole life.
Yeah. You're the opposite end of me over there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, wait, where all these migrants come from? And then you remind yourself, oh, we voted for them.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I forgot about that, but that's okay. Yeah. We'll see what happens with that. I got a feeling that they're going to have an effect on the housing market in this country and why that kind of.
Well, they're having an effect on the labor market. I mean, they're lowering, a lot of the ones that are paid under the table, and I'm sure illegal immigrants. I mean, Mike Wilson was on with guy, on the Tape podcast, and he basically said that. He said, we've got all these guys coming in, these illegal immigrants, and they're taking jobs at lower wages. And Powell even said the unexpected immigration is lowering the wage inflation. I mean, he actually said, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. So I don't know why the lowest income Americans or the, bottom half aren't up in arms over, and I think a lot of them are actually, over the immigration, because they're not taking your jobs or my job. They're taking the jobs of the poorest Americans. Blue
collar jobs here.
Yeah. Well, even entry,
there was actually Zero Hedge put out a chart. This was about a month ago. It was a chart of home construction versus construction jobs, right? And they're tracking one for one over time. And then there's like in the last 2 years, there's a big divergence where home construction is going up and construction employment is going down.
Mhm.
That is migrants
Yep.
working off the books, taking construction jobs.
Yep.
Is that what it
100%.
is?
Yeah.
You can't really disguise it, right? I mean, if that chart breaks like that, it's got to be something, and it seems like we can draw a circle around what's going on. How does this play out? Do you think? How do we? What does it do to the national employment number? You know what I mean? Like we've got 20 million new people. Some of them are going to be working legally, some illegally. Are we going to have an effect on bottom line employment or headline employment data from all this?
It's going to have a big effect on the housing market. That's where it's going to have the most effect. I mean, if you look at what happened in Canada, they let in millions of people legally. They had legal immigration of millions of people. They were letting in 1 million people a year and building like 100,000 new houses, and home prices went parabolic. Like this is my core thesis about housing over the next 10 years. Like everybody thinks that higher rates is going to bring down house prices. Not going to happen. Like home prices are going to go parabolic here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like we're set up for that. I feel like we got spun into a bullish housing market with COVID, right? The lockdowns, we had the massive exodus from California, New York. Everybody moved to Austin and to Miami. They started building madly in Miami and Florida and everywhere else. And now they finally got an inventory issue. And the problem, the reality is that's probably all going to get soaked up. And the reality is that prices probably aren't going to dip too much. And if you look at home construction, home builders, they just survived rates at the top of the range without breaking down. And obviously, as rates back off like they are now, they've caught fire again and right through the highs. That's probably a sector to own for the long term. Rudy, I like when you riff on the Federal Reserve the best. You're really a great specialist on them. What are your thoughts on Jerome Powell, how he's handling things now? And just the setup is, like JD always says, he's like a lifelong hawk at heart. All of a sudden, we're pricing in all these rate cuts, and he doesn't seem to be wavering too much on that, like he's going to let it happen. Are we going to be into another headline inflation issue soon, or how are you seeing Powell's posture toward the markets?
I think the hubris of the Federal Reserve, based on their track record, is unbelievable. There's a quote that I put out from Pierre Trudeau in Canada in 1971, and basically the quote is, we now have fixed the inflation." He says the numbers of the last 2 months have shown that we have eliminated the inflation problem in Canada, and he actually says, he sounds like his son, I hope you thank us for that." And I put a chart in there, and that was the exact bottom of Canadian inflation, and it went to the moon in the years following that. So I think we run the risk of doing that, and of course, us being bullish on commodities and energy, that's a huge part of how they do their CPI model. So yeah, I think as far as you said, Powell's a lifelong hawk. I don't know. In 2018, we took rates to 2% and 2.25%, and the market fell. Remember, in December of 2018, the market fell maybe, I don't know, what was it, 20-something%. People were comparing it to 1931. I used to joke about that every day.
That was Volmageddon.
Yeah. Volmageddon. No, this is late. No, this is when they, no, this is,
what was it, JD?
No, that wasn't Volmageddon, I don't think. No. But anyway,
what was that sell-off about? Go ahead. Okay, I'll figure it out. Go ahead.
The sell-off was because we'd raised rates to 2.25%, I think, and people were used to ZERP. And then he went back down to zero, and then he went nuts during COVID. I mean, I thought Bernanke went nuts in 2008. We were buying corporate bonds. We were buying Intel bonds while they're paying their CEO $60 million a year. We were buying Berkshire. They were buying Berkshire Hathaway bonds. I mean, it's insane. What the Fed was doing. So I think he oversaw. And then, he went from 0 to 5, like very quickly, much quicker than I would have expected. So I think he panicked, and he was. I used to say I thought he was angry at his staff for telling him everything was transitory. But now look, he totally put his tail between his legs at the last speech, and you're right. It sounds like he's going to go full on cut. I was just looking at the numbers on the CME page, and it's like 2/3 for a quarter cut and 1/3 for
it's
a.
Actually, 50. So after the JOLTS data came out this morning, it's 50-50
I missed that.
now. It's 50-50 for a 50 basis point cut.
Was that bad? I didn't see that.
Yep.
I was too busy goofing around. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah,
Rates
I don't
taking
think
those up.
Powell's a hawk. I think Powell's like twisting in the wind here. I mean, he has no seeming principles. You see, he was talking like he's Paul Volcker. He's not Paul Volcker, you know.
Rudy, I love it when you get in fights with Neil Kashkari on Twitter. It's my
Well,
favorite thing.
it's been a while because he just ran away. He gave up, you know.
He tucked tail so fast. He was outmatched and over.
That was years ago. You know, he hasn't bothered me since. You know, I'll send him stuff once in a while, but to his credit, he's the only Fed official that ever even attempts to interact on at all with the serfs. But I don't think any of it's sincere. And his whole history, from comes out of nowhere at Goldman to become Paulson's right hand man, give everybody $700 billion, and then he goes to PIMCO and gets a partner, gets his sweetheart position. Then
the story about PIMCO is they gave him a job. He was supposed to build an equities division at PIMCO, and he utterly failed. He was in over his head, and he was quietly asked to leave. So,
So move it. So run for governor of California, and then when you don't win that, go somehow Minneapolis Fed president. That's the thing. It's like, so the only thing that explains that is Hank Paulson made a few phone calls. That's in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. Rudy, you've got literally the most impressive block list on Twitter of all time. Who are some of the highlights?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I could look it up. Well, here, let me find it real quick. I could tell you.
I would like to hire my employee to go over your block list and publish next to it the tweet that got you blocked.
Sometimes I'm blocked. I'm blocked by the Central Bank of Jamaica, and people are like laughing, like, "What did you do?" And I said, "Well, remember they sent a video years ago. It was like of them dancing around, talking about how great inflation was in Jamaica."
I remember that.
I said, you know what? I'm going to go to one of these trading economics or one of these sites and look up a long-term chart of Jamaican inflation. And sure enough, it's, lower left, upper right. You'd love to own it. And I made a copy of it and I sent it to them, and then they immediately blocked me. So
yeah, they're like, dude, we got no game for Rudy. We're no part of Rudy right now.
It's a mixed. It's all over the map. You got Kara Swisher and Joe Kernan was one of the first to block me. Larry Kudlow's blocked me, but also Cindy McCain and. A lot of neocons, Max Boot and John Potteritz and Adam Posen, and then Cliff Asness blocked me. That was a funny story. It was during 2020 when he wrote an editorial that was like, libertarian. The headline was something like "Libertarian calls for massive government aid" or something like that. And I said, "Wait a minute!" I said, "Libertarian or big hedge fund guy suddenly losing his ass." So he didn't like that. It doesn't sound very libertarian to be begging for aid.
Asness followed me for a bit, but then he unfollowed me.
Yeah, I mean that's happened before too. John Hempton blocked me, but that doesn't sound like that's unusual. Carl Quintanilla followed me for years, and then him and Santoli blocked me around the same time. Taylor Lorenz,
Taylor Lorenz. Kara Swisher is on your block list. That's a great one.
Oh yeah, she's great. Mark Dow, of course, and
have you been blocked by Scott Galloway yet?
No, but we've got into it in a minor way a couple of times. I'm not a fan. Yeah. No, and I'm sure he's not a fan of me. So
no, me neither. He blocked me after I told him that if you think that what you saw on January 6th was totally organic, you're out of your mind. And
exactly.
I said that on January 7th. That was like blocked. Get out of here.
I was thinking at the time, this is the biggest honey trap, or not honey trap, but this is a trap. Don't do this. In fact, I even told people, just go home. Don't do this. It's not. You're gonna. And look what they did to him. It's like they're they did 9/11 or something.
They were thrown in a gulag, and they have no constitutional rights.
And then to call it an insurrection and say that it was the greatest attack on America in history or something. I mean, that's so absurd. And
it was a threat to the transfer of power where not a painting got tilted.
Yeah, it was. But they took advantage of it, and that's what never let a crisis go to waste. And actually, I think that never should happen. I mean, I think Trump was encouraging that. I think, and he shouldn't have. So
you can certainly draw the playbook where it could have been potentially avoided. So
I thought it was very odd that even though everybody in Washington knew this was coming, that security was so weak.
Yeah, that's kind of the story, right? Like they were warned, they shunned the extra protection, and look what happened. And
it's like Chris Martinson's lie hop, let it happen on purpose.
Yeah, that's fair. And then we'll find out that there's 300 FBI members there later. No big
I
deal.
think there was a lot in the crowd. Yeah.
It sure looks like it. If there was one, it was too many, but that's the way they're running things down there in DC.
But if you were there and you trespassed and you were a knucklehead or punching cops or something, then yeah, get charged normally, like get charged like assault and battery, go to jail for a year or two or whatever it was. But then again, you see far worse people on the news now that get released the same day. So I don't know.
Yeah. There's definitely a double legal standard here in the country that's being advertised,
which is bad. That's bad.
Yeah. All right, let's get off markets into some more rosier commentary and topics. JD, night moves. It's out. Let's get the bobblehead going. Let's ring the horn. Let's do everything, man. Congratulations. I couldn't be more proud of you.
So it's not out yet. This is the proof copy.
The proof copy's out. Sorry.
The proof copy's out. It comes out September 23rd. The best short story collection you will ever read. September 23rd. So you can pre-order the Kindle now, or you can wait till September 23rd and get the physical book.
I buy all of JD's books because he's my friend, and I'm incredibly proud that he's a published author of so many great works. And so I'm just a continuing supporter of that. And so I think you should be too, and read them because they're great. Rudy, have you read any of JD's books?
I have not. I'm sorry to say.
Get off the podcast. No, just kidding. All right, so let's go. The three of us have a intense and beautiful passion for music. Okay, and we're going to start this discussion with one of JD's hobby horses. He loves the band Live, or more specifically, loves the album Throwing Copper by Live. Why is that so good, JD? Give me the story.
First of all, I kind of judge an album based on, can you listen to it all the way through with like no filler tracks? Like every track is fantastic. U2's Joshua Tree, I think, is the gold standard for that. Like every single track is a masterpiece. Throwing Copper is pretty close. So Live is from York, Pennsylvania. That's where my wife is from. She grew up with these guys. She knew these guys. Wow. And they have a song on Throwing Copper called Shit Town, which is about York. And Shit Town went like gold record, and everybody in York was pissed off at him. So they had 94 was when that album came out. They had a number of good years, and then they moved back to York. And I saw them in 2013 at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach. One of the best shows I've ever seen. It was absolutely incredible.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, they're a talented group of musicians. There are a bunch of great singles on that album, including Selling the Drama, I Alone, which is my favorite.
Lightning
Crashes, All Over You, and White Discussion. Right. It's definitely a strong album start to finish. Like JD said, I like the painting. The cover painting is a really, really freaky picture by Peter Howson. It's called Sisters of Mercy, and it eventually sold for $186,000 at Christie's in 2005. If anyone could tell me what's going on that album cover, I'm all ears. Right. My counterpoint to that, though, would be the album is a little bit melodramatic. There's something about it that takes itself a little bit seriously. And in 1994, you were competing against Super Unknown by Soundgarden, Ill Communication by the Beasties, Purple by Stone Temple Pilots, and Vitology by Pearl Jam. Rudy, what do you think of any of those bands?
Oh, I love Pearl Jam. I love I love a lot of the '90s music. I think it holds up very well. Oh yeah, Soundgarden. I love all that. I don't know much about. I don't never really listen to a lot of Live, so I can't really comment on that album.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to go into something that we can comment on, because History of Rock tweeted out who's the best band with a quad picture of Nirvana, Green Day, the Foo Fighters, who I grew up with, and Pearl Jam, who I'm going to see tonight at Madison Square Garden. And Rudy responded that his favorite, or that if he had to pick one, it was Nirvana, and I had a problem with that tweet.
Well, as is your right as an American, but they did not say pick. They did not say pick the best band ever. They said you can only choose one band.
That's fair.
And which is a stupid post to begin with. But anyway, I went with Nirvana. Yeah, absolutely. And I will defend that position, although I'm a big fan of Pearl Jam and the Foo Fighters. Green Day, I never really got into as much.
Yeah.
So
See, to me, we're talking about we're talking about Pearl Jam in the heavyweight class. Then we've
right.
got Foo Fighters as a welterweight, and then we've got these little, these little featherweights with the
Yeah.
Green Day and Nirvana. I'm sorry, but they just
Well,
weren't around long enough. Pearl Jam was out when Nirvana was out, and Pearl Jam is playing at the Garden tonight and just launched an unbelievable album. Like that sets them way apart for me.
um, they were around for probably about, they started in the late 80s, the 87, I think, Nirvana. So it was 7 years. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not the length of time. It's the it's the legacy of songs. And I'm a Luddite. I use iTunes and MP3 basically, although I'm kind of moving to Spotify, and I do some streaming, but mostly at my computer. I'm listening to MP3s on an iTunes where I have thousands of songs. So I looked up how many songs I have, and I have 28 from Nirvana. I have 11 from Pearl Jam. I have a couple from Green Day, and I have 15 from Foo Fighters. So, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. In my life, Nirvana is a band that connected with me more than Pearl Jam. So,
I saw a Nirvana concert. Tony and I we talked about this. I saw Nirvana just a couple months before he killed himself in I think in 1994. I
yeah,
saw him at Springfield,
Really?
Springfield, Massachusetts.
Wow.
It was I mean it was absolutely incredible. So
Really?
yeah.
See, I never saw them. My axe to grind with them was that I couldn't stand the sound of his voice. I think that he can barely play a guitar. I think that what he can play, he stole from The Who. And I would say that if there was an algo that would skip Nirvana off of playing any of my radios, I would buy that algo. 'Cause
wow,
I
these
run
are harsh
I-
harsh words.
yeah. I take this seriously though, Rudy. We're talking about rock and roll.
I understand, but I'll defend Nirvana a little bit there. I mean, I've got I used to work in an office. I'd work 7 days a week and very long hours. Every year I'd have like a band that I would I would play to death. And one year it was Smashing Pumpkins. One year it was Alice in Chains. By the way, Alice in Chains I think should be up there too instead of Green Day or something. And one year was Nirvana. And I never had a year where I chose Pearl Jam. And maybe if I would have gotten more into them.
Man, I think that they're like the biggest, best performing rock band out there now. I mean, I've seen them a number of times over the years. I was with them in the beginning. I was going to see
Yeah.
Pearl Jam when they were playing at Roseland in New York City. As just a bunch of as a grunge act from Washington, and so
Sure.
I've been with them my whole entire life.
Yeah.
I've never left them. I've seen them everywhere I can see them. California, New York. I couldn't be more excited to see them at the Garden tonight. I love them for their musicianship, quite honestly. Like, there's nothing like some of the best Pearl Jam riffs to me, like Even Flow and Corduroy, and Alive is one of the best rock anthems that's ever been written. And if
Yeah.
you ever seen them play it in concert with the house lights on, that'll change your day by a great deal. So
Yeah, well, I'm a fan of Pearl Jam. I got nothing against them, and I just haven't been the kind of history and exposure that you have. So maybe if I had, I would have a different opinion. But I'm gonna stick to my guns, Nirvana. Although it's a stupid question.
Nah, it is. It is. It was framed in a silly way, and
Yeah.
just like a random four bands. Like, how did
Sure.
Green Day get in there?
I don't know.
How did Green Day even get in there? I mean, talk about one-hit wonders. They had the one album Dookie, When September Ends, and I think that's about the end of the Green
Yeah.
Day success story. And I could be wrong. I'm sure we'll hear from some listeners if I'm
The
wrong.
Green Day fans will let us know how wrong.
Yeah, exactly. They'll chew me a new ass before
Yeah.
the next podcast comes out for sure. Is there anything that we're missing that we haven't touched on? Oh, I want to touch. Go.
We got payrolls on Friday.
Okay, let's go back to the markets.
If bonds don't go down, I will shit in my hat.
Oh, there's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good market prognostication. JD
Yeah.
shitting his hat. What kind of hat, by the way?
I'm not going to shit in my Yankees hat. I got a Yankees hat on my desk. I'm not going to
Nice.
do that. Yeah.
No, a nice cowboy hat or something would be perfect for you. All right, we'll give you that one as a one-off. Back to the markets. I want to talk about this one goofy story that's out there about one of our favorite hobby horses to rag on, Mark Cuban. One of the funniest things that I've seen on Twitter in a while was he put out a tweet because he's stumping so hard for Kamala. Let me quote him. "Whose persona and character would you like to see your children grow up to have? Kamala or Trump? And this is, this is Cuban coming out thinking he's going to get like 90-10 Kamala. And the poll comes out 75% Trump, 25% Kamala, with like millions of voters on it. And his first move is to tweet up Elon Musk and start complaining that there weren't as many impressions as there were positive votes, and it didn't get this many views. And it's like, oh, dude, give me a break.
I said last week he's a cheese dick. That's
He's
the
a
only way
cheese dick.
he's a cheese dick.
People still worship him because he's a billionaire, and I guess I get that. But I mean, this guy was a one trade wonder like Michael Burry in my book, and so how he's still looming around in the conversation is because he's got billions of dollars. Rudy, you got a view on Mark Cuban? I would imagine he's not too high.
I remember him from back in the 90s. Yeah,
Broadcom days, or
he had no. What was his? I forget the name.
Radio.com or something.
Broadcast. Yeah, I think it was broadcast. Yeah, he his timing was great, and I was around back then too, and so this is the third bubble I've gotten to see up close, in the last 20 years, 25 years. I don't. Cuban he's just goofy. I've never really got into it with him, but he's annoyed me over the years. There's so many billionaires though that are picking sides now. One whether Kamala or Trump, and I wonder if sometimes a billionaire just looks at another billionaire he doesn't like and goes, "Well, that guy's supporting Trump, so I'm going to support Kamala." Yeah. I wonder how much of that's going on. It's just because I don't think any of them really care. So I did see that poll though. That was funny.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're in the billionaire category, you probably care about very little.
You just want inflation to be higher. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I tell you, Rudy, that's my favorite thing about you. You're consistent about how much inflation hurts the little guy. And
no one else says it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's something that's just, verboten to talk about. And because it's actually, actions of the government that are really damaging the economic prospects for the lower middle class. And, it's a real problem. I mean, all of us obviously fall into the 1% somewhere. So when you get your grocery bill, the reaction is just, Jesus Christ, this is ridiculous. Yeah. And if you're on the other side of that, the pain comes before you spend the money, right? For the middle and lower class, they just look at the pile of money and say, okay, well, I can only buy this much worth of goods. Right. So I better choose wisely. So that's
for
really
us. Important. It's an annoyance, and for most people, it's an existential threat. And then Coyotes had a great analogy the other day. He says, Powell says inflation's contained now or whatever, like subprime, but he says it's like saying I used to weigh 190 and now I weigh 320, but it's okay because next month I'm only going to weigh 326. It's price levels that matter, and economists do not get that.
Yeah. So. Well, we've got, we're being gaslit by the administration where Karine Jean-Pierre is coming out and saying, we've seen prices come down. Like we were ragging on her yesterday, Rudy, right? Yeah. On Twitter. We've seen prices come down recently.
In grocery stores.
Right, in grocery stores. And I said, okay, not mine.
I said, why don't they ever have these press conferences in grocery stores?
Yeah, seriously. if I notice one thing, it's that grocery stores now have a license to charge $5 as a minimum charge for anything. You want a bag of chips? That's $5. You want a pack of gum? $5. You want a Gatorade? $5. It's just like by me, it's just give me $5 for that thing and get out of here. And everybody's like, okay, it's just a $5. Yeah. And if you're from the era where you were able to get a Gatorade for 60 cents from the deli around the corner and it was only one flavor, lime green, you have a problem paying today's prices.
Absolutely.
But this was a good place to wrap it up, coming full circle with a conversation about inflation and looking out for the little guy with Rudy. Rudy, I couldn't be more honored to have you on here. Obviously, JD and I are going to be going on this podcast for a long time, and we hope to have you back many, many times over to talk about what we spoke about today and whatever is going on in the world. So thank you for joining us at this early hour from the left coast with a little bit of a chest cold. So thank you very much for your efforts.
It's been a rough week. Yeah. Hey, thank you. You guys have a fun podcast. I enjoy listening to it, and keep up the great work. Appreciate it.
Well, you made it a lot funner, man. I think we're ready to break, right, JD?
Oh, yeah.
Hasta la vagina, everybody.
Hasta la vagina.